hello. Um, One thing I learned in my marketing workshop yesterday, social media marketing workshop, I will stop banging on about this eventually, is that you're supposed to be vulnerable because that's how you engage people in your story. See my eye roll? But this is me being vulnerable. Okay, so I started her historical tours, the stories of women throughout history in London in 2021. And just to tell you a little bit about why I started it and, what was going on with me prior to that. So I'd been in this, 9 to 5, if you like, job, teaching job for 8 to 9 years prior to doing this. And I was not happy in that because I was being bullied. It was a very male dominated workspace. And I just didn't fit in there. I was kind of made to feel as if I wasn't very good at the job, which was contrary to what my clients were saying, but there we are. And yeah, I just felt like I was not accepted. I didn't really have any friends there or anyone I could really connect with. But I wouldn't leave because my self-esteem was very low and I didn't feel that I could survive without that regular income, and being my own boss was not even a thought that occurred to me, or even living a creative life. I thought it was something you could only do as a hobby, as a pastime. Like who can survive off of being creative and doing that sort of work that I dreamed of? But at the same time, I was also in this really emotionally abusive relationship with somebody who didn't give a shit about me, frankly, didn't care. And I was constantly trying to make him care. And without, I don't want you to get out the tiny violins here. That's not the purpose of this. I'm not looking for sympathy, all right? But my dating history, romantic history is probably quite similar to a lot of people that can relate to this, maybe, of being in relationships with people who, are just don't care enough, don't respect you. And you end up, when you're in those kinds of situations, you end up just losing all confidence and self-esteem, and just get yourself into quite a negative spiral. So, that is often the experience of, or in my experience of talking to women, of many women in this patriarchal world. And I'm not saying it's just women that go through that, but anyway. So both of those things luckily changed when COVID hit, because I then lost my job through COVID, and the relationship I finally walked away from. And then I was just sort of throwing myself into creating this new venture. But just before that, I had actually got a job in something quite similar. And I was fired from that again due to the fact that it was a patriarchal, male-dominated space, full of misogyny and internalized misogyny. So all these things kind of really pushed me to creating something of my own, and something that explored these issues and kind of shed light on them, and how historically we've got to this point, right? Because we're still suffering this today, and everybody is still suffering these power dynamics and systems today. So, they say that the artist always puts a bit of themselves and their story in. Don't know what happened there, it cut off there. The artist puts themselves into their characters. Obviously, these are stories about real women from history, whether it's witches who have been killed, executed, whether it's harlots in the 18th century sex trade who have been oppressed and abused and exploited by men, by the system, right? Or whether it's suffragettes who were just fighting for equal rights and were subjected to, torture and horrible abuse by the system, by the authorities. And also I talk about, obviously, women that fight back and have committed crimes and take law into their own hands and commit heinous crimes as well. These are all stories from the past, but I think we can relate to them because our experiences today are not that much different, and we can see how things have not changed that much as we would have hoped. And that's another thing that I raise, is that, okay, the witch trials are over, but the witch hunts are still going on. The misogyny is still going on. The exploitation of women is still going on to this day. Oppressions, we can see that with, the rolling back of women's reproductive rights, or whether it's, the rise of incel culture on the internet and the manosphere and all this kind of stuff. And, it's not just affecting women, is it? I mean, we are all victims of these power dynamics and these systems. And I can only speak for my lived experience as a woman, but I know there are plenty of other women that I've spoken to that have similar experiences, and men as well, who have had similar abusive experiences at the expectations, that this society puts on us, with these ridiculous systems and these power dynamics, right? So that's basically why I'm doing it. That's why I'm sharing these stories. I think it's really important that we learn from history and that we learn from herstory, because how are we ever going to change anything if we don't know where it's all come from, and if we don't know these stories, and how they started? So if you agree with me, or if you, what I mean is, if you think this is an important thing to do, to share these stories, or if you have anything to say on that, then drop me a comment below. I'm supposed to say that as well. But also, I'd be really interested to know, if you have been on a tour, which stories and or characters that I have talked about on the tour resonate with you most, and why. It would be really good to know that. And you can comment below or send me a DM if you prefer. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Cheerio.